We are here. Oh, what's this? Once again, live. What's going on here? Oh, Ben couldn't run the show today, so they called in the reliever. They went to the bullpen. They said, we need a man who can operate a show, who can run as host. You're muted, Ben, so no one can hear you. I can see you in the background. But there it is, folks. We are live. Ryan Ray, Ben Samuels, here again. Ben, how's it going, sir?
I don't think I'm muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you weren't muted, but I had you muted during the video. So
you probably are going to have to do that a few times. For those listening, if you think that CNN and Fox are bad at censorship, you should watch for the next 30 minutes because we're going to see what real censorship looks like.
Wow.
Just saying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're going to see how War Room Media takes the liberty here and uses that mute button. We'll see how you know what? We may play a game and see how many times I can get muted. That seems like a fun day today. So before we get started, Brian, I just want to and there's some lag in the video on my side. I don't know if that's on both ends or if that's showing up in the video. For those
part of it, I don't know if it's lag. Is your fan it's catching your fan? That's I think causing a little problem.
So, your mouth is about 8 seconds behind the audio. So before we get started, though, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to. So I came back from Fort Worth yesterday after Doug, Permian, and Eagleford. And that was a great conference. I just wanted to kind of give a quick shout out to Hard Energy. Really enjoyed that. There was a lot more. Shouldn't say a lot more, but there was a lot of positivity and energy in the room, and it was refreshing to kind of see that. I think people were, number one, excited just to get out and start doing the conference thing again. Ryan, I know for you that's super foreign. I probably don't know what I mean by that, but there are people that enjoy these things and getting out a little bit. Met a number of new people. Had a good time with some old faces as well. Ryan actually made an appearance, which was unexpected, but
not at the conference.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
But he made an appearance outside of Granbury, which is a win in and of itself. Got a good dinner out of it, and so yeah, just wanted to, like I said, give a quick shout out and
I split the check for dinner. Listen, don't cut me. Don't cut me on that. I split the check. Okay, and listen, I don't really like running this because when I come in the show and the music's playing, I'm usually up here. I'm usually fired up. And I got to bring in the closer. I've got to call the bullpen. I got to get the video going. My usual energy isn't here. So I'm resetting this thing. Take two. Yes. We did have a wonderful dinner the other night. It was like 700 degrees, though. Can I be honest?
Ridiculous.
I'm going to get my suit dry cleaned, and they will still not get the sweat stains out of that thing. It was hot in that place. Unbelievable. Oh, man. It was good to see a lot of people, though. Not everyone, but most people there. It was enjoyable. So we had a lovely dinner.
Luckily, where I sat, if I focused my attention to my right-hand side, I didn't have to see the guy to my left, and that worked out. So I was glad to be able to pick the seat first. Not that.
Yeah. So yeah. For me, when I looked to the right, it was miserable. When I looked at the window to the left, where no one was, it was quite pleasant. So that's kind of how it worked. So Ben, why are we not on LinkedIn Live? For those of you who are missing the show today, I'm sure you want to know. Why are we not on LinkedIn Live, Ben?
Well, it's tough to find good help if we're really asking like the real question and want the real answer. But I'll fall on the sword on that one. We had some technical glitches on the setup this morning. It didn't happen. But what are you going to do?
Did you have a friend that was trying to suggest to you how it might work? And you didn't take advice? No,
that didn't happen. For those paying attention, though, you will notice that we are actually, in fact, live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and one of the other YouTube channels. And so if this stream goes really poorly, I may just kill this feed and hop onto the other one. So depending on where you're at, appreciate you joining in.
Hold on, what now?
For those that are watching us on LinkedIn at this point, I appreciate you showing up. Ryan tried to pull us all off to YouTube because he doesn't have LinkedIn Live. It's the whole thing. But appreciate you showing up. This is going to be interesting.
Are you saying that we're on LinkedIn Live?
Yes.
How am I on LinkedIn Live?
You're not. But I may or may. Don't let the facts. I may or may not have set up a dummy stream that is now going live. And so we have 2 active streams here. And so we're just going to kind of see how it goes. This is Mornings Off the Rails. I took it for everything it's worth today. And we're doing hard.
Unbelievable. The one time I get to shine and you're like, no, bro. Yeah, I see you. It's just you. I'm looking at your stream now. It's just you talking to yourself. It is a dummy stream. You're right.
I mean, well, let's get something straight. It's not like if I invited you to that one, you'd hop in and help me out by joining them both. So I didn't even send the invite. I didn't send the invite. Exactly.
Why would I?
I don't know.
So Ben, let's talk real quick about next week. So I will be in DC Monday and Tuesday. So we might do some shows. We'll be back for Thursday's show, of course, but not sure what the schedule is next week just quite yet. So we got a lot of ground to cover. You were out of town this week. I'll be out of town some next week. A lot going on in the markets. What's been catching your eye?
Yeah. So a quick shout out. I don't think she ever listens to this stuff, so I could say a lot of things about my sister, good, bad, or indifferent, that she wouldn't catch. But just a quick shout out. My sister's actually getting married next Saturday, so I'll be in Oregon for a few days, enjoying that, trying to unplug a little
so we
bit.
won't have any shows next week, then, will we?
I'm going to bring my stuff up for Thursday, and if I can find a good spot to record from, we can get that logistically figured out. We'll be good to go. But otherwise, I'll be enjoying getting unplugged, or being unplugged, and enjoying some nature, enjoying some green. I know that the people out in Midland, actually, you know what? This year we had a lot more rain during the summer than we've had in a long time. So it actually is pretty green. But in general, it's usually pretty brown this time of year. But yeah. So let's see what's got me.
So congratulations to Tom, the sister, the whole family.
The Tom, the sister. The sister, her name is Danielle. Again, Danielle. I don't know. I don't think she's ever listened to a podcast, but maybe. So you asked me what was kind of on my mind here. One of the first things I wanted to talk about, and this is I think this is a good cross section between some market news and something else that you and I have talked about, I think, quite a bit off air. The administration came out and I forget actually where the source was. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was last week sometime. Was reading an article that somewhere in the administration there's been some moves towards looking at the non-compete language in contracts and the validity and the veracity of those. And you and I have talked about how you won't hear me say one negative thing about the ethos behind that. Now I can't tell you how they're going to implement that. I can't tell you what's going to happen there. But I think that the destruction, or the deconstruction, I should say, of this, this NDA non-compete, when at the same, most of the, what are you looking at me like that for? Do you not agree? That's interesting. I'll hand it off to you. I think
go ahead. I'm curious where you're going.
I mean, I think that at the end of the day, there are the laws, the way that they are. I mean, the structure of that regulatory framework is very weighted towards the big boys. It's very weighted towards the guys that can pick the fight and have the big money, and it destroys the little guy. It destroys the entrepreneurs, small business owners. I think that the non-compete language, depending on the market, etc. I mean, there are. Yeah, I mean, you're playing against the albatross, and there's I think there's a lot of value in removing that, because at the end of the day, you and I. So if you go from top down, at the very, very top of non-compete is the antitrust, right? And we agree that there shouldn't be that. And if you kind of silo it down to the granular, I think that there's. Let me say it this way: I can't come up with a very good thesis as to why there should be strong non-compete language. I mean, you look at California; they don't, non-competes out there are strictly illegal. Or actually, maybe that's NDAs. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe the California NDAs are illegal. But I mean, and I think that there's also some of that too. The NDA non-compete crossover for me, because can't tell you how many times over the years I have signed an NDA to get into a data room, or to see some proprietary quote unquote process of a company looking to raise funding or whatnot, and find out that the widget or the software or the thing is not proprietary at all. It's and so sign the NDA, potentially non-competed yourself out of that market for some amount of time to look at something that is not in fact anything groundbreaking or anything new. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. What do you think? I'm curious to see what the other side is.
Let me rephrase it like this. Let's say that I think the problem that we both have with them is that they usually are not. They're either too vague, and so the layperson doesn't know what.
Ryan, you're gonna throw me a bone. We've got a bunch of comments on the other stream. Why don't you just join this one as well? What?
Can I?
Yeah, I'm going to send it to you here in a second. Because we have 3 or 4 people that have commented already that they can't hear you, which obviously makes sense because you're not on it. But continue, keep going.
Where was I? Let's see. If
you hadn't really said anything yet.
Okay, there, you gotta bring me into the other one. Okay, there I am. Ben screwed this whole thing up so bad, it's unbelievable. I'm a professional here, and I will get back to profession. Okay, NDAs, non-competes, things like that. The first problem I have with them in general is that the language is usually too vague. To your point, it's, hey, Bob can't. The non-compete, Bob can't work in this industry for 2 years. It's like this. What does that mean? There's not enough definition there. But I don't think that there's just anything wrong with that. So, for instance, if I was starting up a company and I was going to bring in Bob, and I'm going to pay Bob well, but Bob's going to run the company for me, I don't have any problem with someone wanting to protect their company by making the guy that they're bringing in and trusting to run the business a non-compete. Wow, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As far as the NDAs, the same thing. It's usually too vague. The language isn't clear, and so my problem is more the lack of clarity of what's being asked, not the ask.
I'm not sure I follow. Talk to me more about that.
Well, I mean, to your point, if you're so someone like me and you've looked at NDAs where people were like, hey, you need you can't talk about this deal for 5 years in this area. It's like, right. Well, that's not going to work because your deal in this area is one of 1,000 deals in this area, and so the fact I couldn't mention the fact about knowing about this deal that might not be related, the language is too vague. It's not. It's different. So if someone had to say take like a mineral deal, and they said you cannot tell anyone who that we and I'm making this up off the top of my head that Ben Samuels is the broker, the terms of his lease. This, that, and the other, then that's one thing. But usually there's too vague. So you don't really know what you're getting into and the potential conflicts you might run into down the road.
So to be clear, you're talking about NDA and the basis of the regulatory stuff was non-compete, right? And so those are similar. I mean, there's some overlap, but there's a lot of difference there too.
Well, the first example I gave was a non-compete, which is that you can't work in this industry for 2 years. It's like, well, really? Where? Like, what does that mean? Work in this industry? That's not necessarily a definable term.
So let me say in a different way and see how you feel about this. If you remove the non-compete language, or if you remove the non-compete angle, you have a chance at a much more free enterprise market that would be more of a meritocracy as opposed to being able to move, pull the other levers through. Like I said, kind of the big boys in the room and the small guys. Are you getting some feedback on your audio, by the way, or is that just me?
Yeah, that's you because we're in 2 rooms at the same time.
All right.
What now?
What?
Say what you're saying again.
Oh, that's bold of you to assume I remember what I just said. I don't remember. I mean, I was in the middle of the thought there. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But no, I was talking. I mean, like if you're looking at if you remove the non-compete ability for companies to have you sign a non-compete, you by definition have a freer market and you have more market players.
No, well, okay, you have a freer. I mean, I don't know if you have a freer market. You have a different market. So let's say that I was going to invent something new, like truly like cold fusion, right? Something they talk about forever that no one can do. And I figure it out. There's no reason in the world I shouldn't be able to get someone to sign a non-compete to take my intellectual property and to go work for a competitor. Like there's no reason. So NDA, non-compete, all that stuff. There's no reason I shouldn't be able to protect my asset.
Right.
So I don't. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't know what the problem. There's no in theory. There's no problem with them. I think the problem is how they're written and applied.
I mean, if you really have something proprietary, go get a provisional patent on it.
Well, okay. Let's take it one step further. I think I can do it. I don't know, but I want to spend $5 million figuring it out, and I want to hire a staff to work with me.
Okay, well, if the guy down the street spends $8 million and figures it out faster, then I don't see how you have a claim to the first, being the first.
That's not the point. The point is to protect myself from people leaving and going working for him.
I mean,
why can you not protect I don't know why you can't protect if you're the one funding it. Why you can't protect yourself from the employees going to work for a competitor?
Because if I tell you that I make some like widget and it ends up being that it's the same widget that 98 other companies make, but now you can no longer take a job in that entire market because you signed a non-compete because I told you that we would have like something proprietary or there was something value add to our process, but it ends up being the exact same widget as everybody else. I mean, like, can you imagine if like a roustabout was non-competed out of working in the oil field because he was told that some tool that he was going to be working on the rig was proprietary, and the company didn't want him going to the next guy or next shop and doing the same thing. And now the guy, now he either has to take that job or keep that job or move industries, or
yeah. So here's
because it's not just at the company level, right? I mean, you're talking about a lot of times you're talking about the lower level rungs.
Yeah. So here's a comment that we got. Gents, non-competes have two things. One, the term, competition term. Too many employers leave out the second part of that. If the non-compete is void, although the employee doesn't realize that. And then the second part is second comment. So actually, employees just need to start doing their due diligence and pushing back on NCs, but only signing them if the employer associates monetary amounts. And that would be my point, which is nothing is stopping the employee from not signing it. And to your point about the roustabout, that's the same point. Is that if you're saying that you cannot take this job in the world, then that's too vague. That is the problem. It's the vagueness with them. If he's right, the chance of compensation, then that would refute. That would be fine.
So, Jeremy, appreciate you coming in and sharing that. And you're right to a degree, but I think it's the same thing as you can tell the Amazon worker, the Amazon warehouse worker, you can either take that job, and what that means is that you have to pee in a cup and you can't leave your seat, and you like that's the thing. But that's the only job available. Like I think it's just a tough sell to say to somebody, oh, you can, you don't have to sign it. I mean, what if you're in a position where you really need the job? And would people like to think that you have a lot of optionality and a lot of different choices? Sure, but there's a lot of scenarios where the job that's available is the only one that's really available. And so I don't think that it's appropriate to really come at this as putting this on the employee of, you can decide not to take the job, because there's some scenarios where the company really does hold that control. And so I don't know.
I mean, right. So, but that's not you're using the lowest common denominator for your argument, and that's not how it works. You can't say we're going to take the lowest common denominator and say this, and that's just to my point. My first point, which has been the same, which is that they're too vague, which means the courts. I don't know how the courts rule on these things, but the courts should not allow them to be implemented if they're too vague. And my understanding, at least from Louisiana, when I looked at them, was if you didn't have the specific parishes, which was counties, but parishes listed, it didn't matter. So like you could say, Washoe Parish, whatever, Hood County, Texas. But if you didn't list that, then outside that, it didn't matter. Like I
feel like all the arguments you're making on the pro side are really just sort of, proving that it's not a negative. But what is the positive to having these agreements in place? What is it doing to help the market players?
Exactly. That's what I started off with. If I want to start a business and I want to hire someone to run the business for me, then there's no reason I shouldn't be able to protect myself from this guy coming in, me paying his salary, him learning how to run the business and then leaving and going to work for a competitor. Like, I should be able to protect myself from that interest if I want to.
But that happens all the time. That still happens all the time.
That's not the point I'm making. Whether it happens or not, it's a secondary issue. I should be able to protect myself from that. Right? I mean, why shouldn't I? Otherwise, so you run a business that's dedicated on NDAs and stuff, and I get your point that there's too much of it is it's just
no, that's the point. From my seat, I waste so much time, attention, and effort on signing NDAs, and when I get into whatever the data room is, there's nothing value add. There's nothing proprietary. There's nothing new. It's a lot of times it's like I said, it's the same widget, just like with a different coat of paint on it. And if I sign that NDA and it has a non-compete portion of it, and so then I can't look at a deal in that same space for some amount of time, or I have to be a lot more cautious about what I'm doing in that space. That's materially detrimental to my business, where I signed an NDA or I signed a non-compete with the expectation that I was going to be looking at something that was requisite of that non-compete, and it's not. And so, and that's not even as the employee. I'm not even the guy that, I'm not even signing my life away there. I'm just signing my, I'm a third party.
So let me ask you this: you bring in a sales guy, and he's going to handle all of Texas for you or whatever. I'm making this up. And the sales guy is going to have access to all your financials, so he's going to know exactly where you're vulnerable at. He could leave, go to a competitor, and expose your vulnerabilities overnight. You don't think there's any reason you should be able to protect that under any circumstance?
Look, I mean, that's a great point. I guess where I'm coming at this also from, and I don't know how much of the calculus is here, but I would imagine that you and I can agree that our country and our society right now is way too litigious. And I think that if you remove these non-competes and you remove the NDAs, and you remove the ability, or you remove the courts from the remediation of that, I think, to your point, I think the free market would adjust in ways that would protect, you'd find protection, but you'd find it other ways. And off the top of my head, I don't know what that would look like, but I have full confidence that the market players that want to keep something proprietary would find some other way to do it. Because, like I said, I mean, non-competes now, if you really want to enforce them, you have to go through a lawsuit, and those lawsuits can be aggressively expensive. And so I bet a lot of companies get stuff stolen from them, et cetera, but don't ever pursue it because of that. But if there was some other lever that wasn't through the courts, I wonder if you would organically have a freer market. Because the market players aren't just going to let you run rampant and steal, right? And so I'm just looking for a different remedy. I'm not saying that there doesn't need to be protections. I think there's I don't know, man. I don't want the government in my business. I appreciate the fact that you do, apparently, but I mean, I'd rather not.
Well, they don't have to be. You don't have to sign them. You don't have to offer them. But they do. But again, it's the focus, it's the broadness. To your point, which you keep making my point for me, is that they're too broad. They include things that are already out there. There's nothing to protect, and you sign it, and you're like, well, guys, I didn't know about this. Like, this is stupid. There's a sense in which they don't serve the right function because the litigiousness of the country. Lawyers, make them very wide, very open ended. And they know that most people won't challenge them, and so they're afraid of them. So I think that the problem is, again, the scope of them is more the problem than anything else. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't just necessarily disagree with that. So, what I've been out of the office for the last few days, but I know there has been. It seems like there's been some conversation around. So OPEC, they were supposed to meet last week, didn't meet. And they were going to kick the can down the road, but it seems like the UAE and Saudi Arabia may have. Did they make a deal last week, or are they now on the same page, or are we still kind of in limbo? What's going on there?
No idea.
Oh, you don't know? Mm-mm. What in the world? Ellen should be ashamed. I feel like she'd be disappointed.
I know yesterday there was reports that the Saudis and the UAE were going to do something, and then Anas was tweeting that that's not true, and then I never followed up. So I don't know what they ended up coming in on.
Gotcha. So before we wrap here in just a few minutes, I want to give a quick shout out, like I've tried to do over the last couple of weeks. Ryan, actually, I think you reminded me last week, which I appreciate. But Sky High for Kids, which is a organization based out of Houston, Texas, committed to eradicating childhood cancer. We are in the midst of a ramp up for our annual event out here in the Permian Basin in Odessa, September 17 and 18. If you'd like to be involved, whether from the sponsorship angle, buying tickets, auction items, etc., would love the support. Would love for you to be there with us. And so reach out to me, reach out to Brittany Franklin, Grace Terrio, Nick Talent, anybody else on the committee. We'd love to talk to you about how you can be involved and how you can be a part of the event. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Rumor is that Ryan Ray may be making an appearance. We'll see if I can actually get him out there. He's given me the brush off, but I haven't even given him the sale yet. So we'll see. But like I said, we'd appreciate all the support. And then, like Ryan said, so I guess we're gonna you and I are gonna be on air later this afternoon for Don't Let the Facts at 3:00. And then next week's schedule is a little bit up in the air. We're gonna try to stream as much as possible, depending on the Oregon internet. Which, for anybody paying attention, for what it's worth, I won't be in Eastern Oregon. I'm going to be outside of Portland, thank God. Hopefully, only going to be landing in Portland and getting out as fast as possible. But depending on the internet and depending on what's going on up there, we will be on air for some amount of time. Won't have Coffee and Liquidity for the next couple of weeks. I believe the next stream that we have for Coffee and Liquidity is coming July 30th with Derek Clark, and so we've got a little bit of a hiatus there. But hopefully going to be getting some mornings off the rails and Don't Let the Facts in the meantime. So Ryan, any final thoughts?
That's it for now. Be back today at, we say 3?
Yep.
3 o'clock. Talk to everyone then.